Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Michelle and I'm Elvis here on YouTube, and today we're going to do a story time. So if you're into this kind of thing, then stick around for the video. And this is from Elvis and Gladys, and it was by Elaine Dundee, and who spent many years researching this beautiful book. I'm going to put the link down to the book in the description bar, and if you haven't read it, please go and buy it, it's worth it. If you have read it, go back and revisit it. That's what I've been doing, and I've just really enjoyed it. And I wanted to read a little bit out of the start, Captain Marvel JR. And I'm going to put some pictures up, and I thought it would just tie in beautifully alongside the movie that we've just watched with the Captain Marvel JR reference. And I think it just makes you think, gives you a different perspective, and it's just amazing. So, if you're ready, let's begin. Captain Marvel JR. By the time Elvis was in first grade, he and his schoolmate Wayne Ernest had evolved a system that would both double their money and their reading pleasure. They swapped comic books, and Elvis sometimes walking the mile over to Wayne's place on Saturday afternoon to complete the transaction. Elvis was already immersed in the adventures of the Lone Ranger, Hopalong Cassidy, Tarzan, Batman and Superman, when his secret life suddenly took a dramatic new turn. He discovered Freddie Freeman in the comic book series Captain Marvel's Adventures. There on page 267, young Freddie made his entrance, and very nearly his exit, fishing off a boat with his grandpa. "Look, Grandpa, someone fell in the water over there. Put about and we'll rescue him. In fact, they have rescued the diabolical Captain Nazi, who repays their soft-heartedness by socking old Grandpa overboard, and then grabbing the oar out of Freddie's hand, whacks him into the briny deep as well. By the time Captain Marvel flies to the rescue, Grandpa is drowned, and Freddie is no more than a symbolic hand stretching up from the sea. Swooping down and sweeping up Freddie's almost lifeless form in his arms, Marvel says, 'You're in bad shape, youngster. I'd better get you to the hospital right away.' Easier flown to than entered. Unimpressed by the astounding figure cut by the captain and the desperate condition of his charge, an officious hospital attendant bars their way. 'This is highly irregular,' he splutters. 'This is a private institution. You can't come in.' Responding with a simple nuts, Marvel walks through a wall and into the operating theatre, where he curtly orders a surprise doctor to get to work on the young boy. Then uttering the magic word, Shazam! Marvel is transformed into a plain, everyday Billy Batson. Sitting in the waiting room, anxiously asking a nurse, "How is he? Will he live?" The doctors say there's no hope. Even if he lived, he'd be a cripple for life. We're doing all we can, but we don't expect him to last the night out. Billy waits till midnight to sneak into room 15, hoists Freddie into a fireman's hall, carries him downstairs and out, and spellbound 6-year-old Elvis read on as Billy walked down the long, ancient underground hall where he first met the sorcerer Shazam, and stared with interest at the panel depicting Billy carrying the dying Freddie on his shoulder through a tunnel lined with gargoyles labelled pride, envy, greed and hatred. Billy laid Freddie upon an empty, dust-covered throne. He lit a long, extinguished torch, and as the flame flared up, there was a rumbling sound, a lightning bolt, a crash of thunder, and the ghost of the dead wizard appeared. "Who calls old Shazam with his 1,000 years of sleep?" asked the wizard. "I, Billy Batson, calls you. There is a man loose above, a man called Captain Nazi, who's destroying everything. I've brought you a boy who's dying as a result of Captain Nazi's cruelty. You must help him at once, like you helped me." Rising from the throne, the wizard pronounces, "What has already come to pass cannot be changed by any power of mine, but you, as Captain Marvel, can, if you will, pass on to this boy some of the mighty powers I once gave you. Billy Batson, speak my name." Billy complies. "Shazam!" And the last panel of the page is filled with black clouds and yet another lightning bolt. Elvis turned the page and read on. The wraith of Shazam vanished, and in his place stands the familiar red-clad figure Captain Marvel. The dying boy lays at his feet. In the second panel, Freddy springs miraculously back to life, exclaiming simply, "Why, it's Captain Marvel!" And the third panel on that page gives itself over to the third lightning bolt. The next panel stretches clear across the page. Captain Marvel stands astride of his familiar snappy red bodysuit trimmed with the yellow arm bracelets and his familiar yellow boots and belt, and sporting his familiar yellow lightning bolt emblem on his chest. His flowing white cape flares rakishly on one shoulder. An enormous book of knowledge rests on the wizard's throne, and the brazier is still aflame. In the foreground, profiled in an aura of light, stands Freddy, whole, healed, and triumphant. His hair is shining black. A lock falls over his forehead. He's wearing sideburns, and his hair grows down the base of his neck. Although his bodysuit is blue and his cape is red, his outfit is otherwise an exact replica of the captain's in every detail, including the yellow lightning bolt emblem. "I am well again. I am like you," he exclaims in wonder. "That's right. You're Captain Marvel Jr." Looking at them standing together, the captain and his junior, we are instantly struck by the different techniques used in the drawing of Freddy, Captain Marvel Jr., from that of Billy and Captain Marvel. Billy, Captain Marvel, is drawn in the stylised cartoon strip tradition. As the captain, he is beetle-browed, pin-eyed, muscle-bound and lock-jawed. While as Billy, his features suggest that as a child of 8, delineated them on the blank oval of his face. Freddy Marvel Jr., on the other hand, has been obviously and sensitively copied from a most appealing adolescent life model. He looks, in fact, exactly as Elvis, from adolescence to the end of his life, strove him to make himself look. On the last page of Wiz 25, Captain Marvel and Captain Marvel Jr. are flying through the air, deep in conversation. "Now you have all the powers I have. Use them to fight the forces and evil, wherever they may appear," says Captain Marvel. "And do I change back to my own shape too, like you do, Billy Batson?" "Yes, you will have to go through life in your own form, but whenever you need me, speak my name, and as Captain Marvel Jr., you will be able to do the things I do. Now go back in the hospital and get well, and then I'm going to send you into Master Comics to take care of Captain Nazi." "Goodbye, Captain Marvel," replied Junior stalwartly. And with the lightning bolt panel that precedes all changes in psyche and geography, Freddy wakes up in the hospital exclaiming, "Gosh, I wonder if it's all really true. I'll be out of here tomorrow and then I'll find out." And he does find out. It is true. Although, as a caption points out, the poor boy is destined to carry on with a crippled leg as a souvenir of his encounter with Captain Nazi. Yet what the evil captain doesn't yet know is that the innocent lad he crippled is now the most powerful boy in the world, Captain Marvel Jr. Thus, Captain Marvel Jr. began starring in his own series, beginning in January 1942. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I was really captivated by the story and I really needed to share it with you. Now, of course, you can see the pictures sometimes do not collaborate with the text, but I am not a comic book aficionado, but I do love the story. So I apologise for that and I hope it didn't affect your watching, especially if you are a comic book fan. Thank you so much. I just absolutely can see how much Elvis was influenced by such an amazing comic. And we've heard him say it. In comic books, he was the hero of the comic book. So in that comic book, he was Freddy. He was Captain Marvel Jr. And I just think it's wonderful. And when I see those scenes very early on in the movie, they just inspire me to be that comic book hero, to do the things that I want to do, just like Elvis did. We can have so many influences and we can have so many different passions, but it's how we move forward and how we take it on in our own lives, just like Elvis. So thanks very much for joining me on this. Thanks so much to Elaine Dundee and the way she wrote that. It was just absolutely divine. Please go and read Elvis and Gladys. You will not regret it. Thanks very much for joining me and take care of yourself. And I'll end with a picture of the Rock of Eternity. Goodbye, everyone.